Hello, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be wrapping up all the books that I read in the month of April, and honestly, I read more than I expected I would. It was the Realmathon Readathon in April. Realmathon Readathon, that's fun to say. Pretty sure I said it wrong, it's just called Realmathon, isn't it? Or Realm of the Readathon. Anyway, that was happening in April, so I was reading a lot for that. Also, we had a really sunny, long weekend in April over the Easter break, and that meant I also read quite a lot. I think I read 3 books in that weekend alone. How many books am I even wrapping up? Is it 10? 9. Okay, I read 9 books in April, and I'm very excited to tell you what they were. Before I get into this video, I do have a sponsorship for this video, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about them first. So today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp, and that is BetterHelp. And this is in honour of Mental Health Awareness Month, which is always so important. The theme for this year's Mental Health Awareness Month is Together for Mental Health, to help people prioritise their mental health. For me, this is one that really resonates because I think my biggest struggle at the moment is how I feel alone in my flat and the loneliness that I feel and how that does get me in a really low place on quite a regular basis. I am somebody that relies on having company around me all the time, and to live alone is great and I really love it, but for me this loneliness is something that I didn't think would hit me as hard as it has, especially after lockdown, and I'm sure that I'm not the only person that's had this experience, but I think it can really eat away at me, and particularly as somebody who has OCD and who can let that OCD ruminate, I find the more I'm alone and the less I have people to talk to around me in person. Obviously I can call my friends and my family, but I do find that my brain ruminates more on my OCD and makes a bigger deal of it because I'm just sat with my own thoughts, and that can really be a struggle at times for me. So this is where BetterHelp can come in. They offer access to online, over phone or video call therapy services. Obviously BetterHelp will work in whichever way suits you. You don't have to have your video camera on, for example, you can just chat over the phone. They have access to over 20,000 therapists, and once you fill out a questionnaire, they can match you to a therapist that best suits you. This is much more affordable than offline therapy sessions as well, and it's also very customizable, so if you aren't getting on with this particular therapist, you can very easily switch to a new one. If you think this is something that you would find useful, I've got all the links down below that you need, all the information. You can check it out on BetterHelp's website, and again, that is BetterHelp. You can also use my link below to get 10% off your first month. Okay, in order of reading, first up, I read Fence Volume 4. This is by multiple authors. It is by C.S. Bassat, Joanna the Mad, and Joanna Lafuente. This was really good fun. It follows the sequence of events as one person joins a new school and tries to get onto their fencing team, and this is Volume 4 in that journey, so each one leads on from the next. They're just simple, fun stories. I'm not really a big sport person at all, so I'm not reading these for the sport aspect, but it does have a camaraderie, kind of verging on found family. It has a nice unity, and it's just fun. I gave this 3.5 stars. I think I would have given it higher if I had have enjoyed the sports side of it a little bit more. Obviously, reading books about fencing, I am accepting that I'm going into something with a niche specialist, but I liked it. It was good, and I cannot wait for the 5th one, which I think has now been announced, because when I finished this, it hadn't been, and now I think that Lauren from Fiction Tea has told me that we are getting a 5th one, and that it's coming, I want to say later this year. Then I read the teeny weeniest book. I think I got myself off to a good start this month by reading 2 very, very small books. But the teeniest book, it's Galatia by Madeline Miller. This is a short story about a man who turns this sculpture into a woman and has her as his wife, I think. Does he actually marry her? Yes. She is his wife, and she doesn't want this life. She wants freedom, and this is about her trying to get this freedom. I think because this is a short story, it's very hard to rate it any higher for me than the 3.5 stars I did give it. I enjoyed Madeline Miller's writing style, but I couldn't get into it enough because it was just really short, which is what is to be expected somehow with a short story. They are, by nature, quite short. So I did like this one, and I'm glad that I have read it now. I just have to read Circe now by Madeline Miller. Then I did a reread of The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This is a series that I wanted to finish, or at least continue with, because I'd only read this one, and have now got over halfway through the second one, but I haven't finished it yet. So this is the 3rd time I've read this, except it's the 2nd time I finished it, because the 2nd time I read it, I don't know why I just didn't actually finish it. This follows Blue, who is living in this town where there are a group of boys known as the Raven Boys. They are very interested in this certain historical figure and waking him up, and how ley lines are all linked to this. Blue is living in a family of women who have different abilities, including psychic, and it's really cool following their story. But I love the way the magic system is pulled into this and the way it talks about ley lines, because ley lines are quite a big thing around an area that I live near, and that area was kind of mentioned in this book, which was really cool. There's some talk in this about white horses in England and how in the Wiltshire countryside those are on the side of hills, and I listened to a specific part about a white horse as I was driving past a white horse on my way back to my family home, which was really cool. So that was a fun way for this to kind of draw me in, as well as the actual storyline being good and me being invested in Blue as a character. So I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then I read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, and this book was so brilliant. This was a journey. This one is an arc that the publishers sent through to me a little bit early. I think this comes out in July. Yes, July 14th. Oh my gosh. So this book follows 2 people who meet as children and go on to work together as game designers in their young adult and adult lives. And this follows them from that start journey up until, I don't actually know how old they are when it ends. I think it spans over about 30 years, so it's in the late 90s up until the 2000s and the 2010s, and then now-ish. So it's around 30 years, and oh, what a journey! This has so much. It has the emotion, it has the big moments, it has friendship, it has romance, it has drama, it has high stakes. It was so good. I really, really loved it. I loved the talk about game designing. I was reading this as I was starting to get properly into streaming on Twitch, which is something I've started doing recently, and this totally got me in the zone for that as well, and gave me such a big appreciation for what goes into making the games, especially the smaller games that you can see that one person has crafted on their own. It's so cool, and this really opened that door to teaching me more about that side of things, but also just being great as a fiction, because this covers so many different things. I really enjoy it when a book goes through someone's life, and this one does that so well and really captures your love for these characters. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. It was really good. If you haven't already, pre-order it. It's so, so good. Then I read Wild and Wicked Things by Francesca May. Honestly, I don't really know how I feel about this book now on reflection. I can't really articulate what this was about, and I don't know why. Do you ever finish a book and then you're just like, what was that again? That is my feeling with this book, but for no real reason. This was said to be Great Gatsby crossed with practical magic, and that gave me such expectations, and I don't think they were lived up to. It follows a main character who has come over to this island in which there is magic, and she is kind of being pulled into this magic via her neighbours who seem to have some involvement in it. And this is about the magic system. It's about her discovering all of this and also finding out who she is standing on her own 2 feet as well. I'll just wait for that siren to go past. I can see why this is said to be compared to Gatsby, because it does have a lot of parties, but I just feel like we didn't go into enough detail about those parties. I wanted more. This one, again, is an art the publisher sent me, but this book is out now. I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then I read With This Kiss by Carrie Hope Fletcher. So I actually went to the launch event for this book, so I wanted to obviously have read the book before the launch event. So again, I will send an arc of this, but this is the finished WATERSTONES edition because it's got very pretty stenciled edges. This follows a main character who, when she kisses people, she can see how they're going to die, and she of course has somebody that she doesn't really want to kiss to find out how he's going to die, and this is her kind of coming to terms with what this gift or curse really means, and if it is a gift or a curse, and how she can live her life with this happening. What I would say about this is the story is the thing that upholds this book for me. I was really engaged in the concept of the seeing of the death when you kiss somebody, and whether that is the thing that decides the death because you've seen how they're going to die. Like, were they always going to die like that, or was it because you kissed them, and if you tell them, do they know? Like, so many different questions. It definitely gave me the same vibes as They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera, in terms of the way it hurt my head for how much I would think about this as a concept. The writing itself is a little simpler, I would say, but because of the way this story goes, I felt it was a really good blend of the two, because it could have been a very heavy subject topic if Carrie Hope Fletcher was going to investigate it more down the route of mortality and what causes the eventual deaths of characters. So yeah, it could have gone down that route, but I think because of the way it was written, it didn't, and it balanced it out and made it a lighter read. And I really liked it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because it was just good fun. It was one of those books where it wasn't absolutely amazingly written, it was just fun. Then I finally continued the Cemetery of Forgotten Books series with The Prisoner of Heaven by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. Carlos Ruiz Zafón wrote one of my favourite books, The Shadow of the Wind. This is the 3rd book in that series. I have 1 left and I've completed the series. I feel like it's been looming over me forever. This one, honestly, I felt a little bit disappointed with. This follows one of the characters that we meet in book 1 and see a bit of in book 2 as well. And we are following their background and how they came to be who they are and the confusions and complications that have got them to this point as we lead up to their wedding. So we get 2 different stories going on at once here. We get the main story that is the present day of the book, but actually it's the 50s? Yeah, 1950s. In Barcelona, and then we also get the history of this guy's life, so we are going back to when he was a young adult, and we're getting that in the middle of the book for like a good 100 pages, and I think unfortunately for me that let it down a little bit. I think when I thought I was getting one story and actually ended up getting another, it didn't keep me as engaged, and I wanted that secondary story to come to a close because it wasn't like it was flitting between the present day and the past. It was very much based in the past, which I just didn't enjoy very much. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars, so I didn't dislike it. I just felt it could have engaged me a little bit more, but I love Carlos Ruiz Zafón's writing style, so for me, his books are always going to be really brilliant. It's just the plot on this one didn't quite hold up, unfortunately. Then I read another arc, which is When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. This is again set in the 50s and is in America, and it follows a young girl who sees this mass dragoning event in which loads and loads of women in America suddenly turn into dragons. I think actually all over the world, not just America. They turn into dragons and they just fly off and abandon their husbands and abandon their children and their lives. And this is following our main character from childhood into adulthood and the questioning of this mass dragoning and why this happened and the power that women hold. This is a very feminist book, and I thought it was done in such a brilliant way because it taught the reader about what the world was like at this time for women, but also put this fantasy spin on it and this metaphor of the dragons and what that meant for that society and how that was kind of accepted or brought into that society, which was a very interesting concept. I think this one's out now. Did it come out in May? Yes, it came out May 3rd. Is that today? It comes out today when I'm filming this. If you want something a little bit different that's going to keep you engaged, and similar to Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, this does again follow someone throughout their life, I would definitely recommend this. It's really unique, really fun, and also educational, but not in a boring way at all. Like, it doesn't feel heavy, it doesn't feel like it's daunting to pick up. It was just really approachable and a good read. Oh, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. And finally, I read The No-Show by Beth O'Leary. This is Beth O'Leary's latest book. We follow 3 women who have all been stood up on Valentine's Day by the same guy. This is a romance. It's also a mystery of sorts as we try and work out why they have been stood up and what is going on with this story. What is happening? Why is this circumstance befalling them? And it's really hard to talk about without spoiling it, and I'm not gonna say much more because this one was a roller coaster and I think it was very clever and I enjoyed what it did, and I think it did it well. It was definitely different from Beth O'Leary's other books. I haven't read The Road Trip yet, but The Switch and The Flat Share was definitely stand out different from those. I always really enjoy Beth O'Leary's writing style because I think she has a real cozy way that feels very wholesome and familiar about her writing. But this one definitely pushed the boat out with the kind of concept she was dealing with, and I think that was very well done and I really liked it. I would say that around page 100 to 150, I can't remember exactly where, I nearly rage quit the book because it spun itself around and I was not happy with it for a good 100 pages or so. And I pushed through, and I'm glad I did because it was still really well written. I was just getting really mad at certain circumstances, but then it unraveled and it was good. So I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So those are all the books that I read in April. I would love to know how many books you read and what your favourites were in the comments down below. As I said at the start of this video, this has been working in sponsorship with BetterHelp, and that is BetterHelp. If you are interested in finding out more about BetterHelp, I have linked their details down below in the description. So thank you so much, BetterHelp, for sponsoring this video. Thank Thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please do give this video a thumbs up. As I said, you can comment down below how many books you read in April, and you can subscribe to see more of my face on your feed. Down below, as well as the BetterHelp link, you also have links to my Patreon, where I do lots of extra content, and also my Twitch, where I also do lots of extra content. Thank you so much for watching. Keep smiling and stay positive.